Dawson, Davenport. This title of the poem is, I didn't come up with the title. You got to keep going even when the world's ending, because the ones before have gone through so much more. And let's stop pretending that it's okay to live in paralysis, slowly watching the clock tick. 6-round amateurs, Meskwaki warriors check the parameters overnight while the village sleep. For 100 miles, the women lie in peace. The children get to eat. An enemy can be seen from 93 million miles out. The settlement live to grow seeds and blow trees and speak in dialects that have been around longer than the matter underneath. That inhabited this area, the swamps and marshes and all the mythical terror that gets passed down in a sacred lexicon. And every reincarnation comes another red earth phenomenon. Born in the cave, raised at the blue house, the railroad leads to town. The sheriff hates us. The foot soldiers march to the orders set forth 100 years apart. When they built the Noah's Ark, when they tore the town apart, when they stood amongst the giants, when they ate the raw hearts of the kill they took from the forests, without setting foot, without giving something, without giving a second look. The consequences, they say, will come some way, in some form, on some day, when you're riding your bike down Whiskey Bottom. That's a road in Iowa, Meskwaki settlement. You got to keep going even when the world's ending, because the ones before have gone through so much more. So let's stop pretending that it's okay to live in paralysis. The clock ticks. 6-round amateurs, Meskwaki warriors check the parameters overnight while the village sleep. For 100 miles, the women lie in peace. The children get to eat. An enemy can be seen from 93 million miles out. The settlement live to grow seeds and blow trees and speak in dialects that have been around longer than the matter underneath. That inhabited this area, the swamps and marshes and all the mythical terror that gets passed down in a sacred lexicon. And every reincarnation comes another red earth phenomenon. Born in the cave, raised at the blue house, the railroad leads to town. The sheriff hates us. The foot soldiers march to the orders set forth 100 years apart. When they built the Noah's Ark, when they tore the town apart, when they stood amongst the giants, when they ate the raw hearts of the kill they took from the forests, without setting foot, without giving something, without giving a second look. The consequences, they say, will come some way, in some form, on some day, when you're riding your bike down Whiskey Bottom. That's a road in Iowa, Meskwaki settlement. This is the third poem. Again, I don't have another title. We don't visit our elders no more. The story ghosts will haunt us one day, you know. But we just keep getting high, without a care in the world, without remembering the gems and the pearls that come, with the knowledge encapsulated in the old age that's fading out. Sitting in a chair, watching westerns, not really knowing how crazy the world has gotten. We're on the brink, like really the brink, extinct. Whenever an old person passes on, an encyclopedia of time is gone. Polaroids of language and the films stored in their memories, a hard drive with 1 billion terabytes, and stories of drunken nights and old snags, and old grudges 'cause of old snags, and people who've done what in the past, and who belongs to whose family, and those who've passed, and those lonely paths of those homes way in the back, by the river, by the railroad, by the fields. Our elders are leaving, like stolen library books, encyclopedias that our community needed. Just hope that people's read it, or at least took time to listen to the audio version. Poem 4. It's that time of year when the leaves change. Soon they will be gone, and the cold wind will have set in. Snagging weather, some would call it. Boozing weather, I used to call it. Early morning, still leaning against the car, no matter how heavy the fog gets. Die hard, still waiting to make that 6 o'clock run to the store. Listening to Faith No More, real loud, smoking Newports, and war whooping, sounding like a dying cow. Sand Hill, parked near the edge of civilization. 5:45, it's getting closer. And when the jokes die down and we're getting ready to drive to that small town, when that silence ensues and you begin to think, looking over the bluff and the wind picks up, automatic gunshots ring off in the rough, you can't help but think that our ancestors used to chill here too, overlooking the same stuff at this same time of year. Several hundred years in the past. So much has changed, but the consensus is, fuck it, there's no going back. Or do we too change like the leaves? And will we return to Mishkwaki Aduwawin? That's Mishkwaki Aduwawin. Will my youngest child be able to drink from the faucet outside when she's an adult? Will the skies still be blue and the sunset still have that magnificent shell? As long as we still have our fire sprinkled with a few words of our language, I think we will sustain minimal impact. Can we sustain minimal impact after the last attempts on our lives? Must we bring back our dances, or is that even a thing anymore, since the fasting has become a fashion, an antique sold to a fastest? Let's see who's the fastest to come to our senses, to snap out of it. Because if we wait for disaster to hit, we'll surely be on schedule to meet the pit. Who will remember the rituals when the screen in front of us plays a habitual role in our lives, played by visions meshed together like some stew rationed after the dark skies? It's wild how a picture can make you emotional sometimes, like your daughter riding a camel with that angelic smile of innocence, a temporary loan captured on a phone, or your baby girl, a fresh flower picked hanging in her hair. How can one be so obsessed, so blessed? Or your son sitting in amazement as the movie scrambles on, a temporary loan captured on the phone. Sometimes it can be one last memory, a special moment in time recorded to be kept like a book of rhymes. Hidden treasures, gems, locked away behind a few numbers. A scroll left, a scroll right, down, up. A digital pathway to uncover someday if the coding doesn't get stuck. This last poem I'm going to read is a poem about missing and murdered Indigenous women. And this is an issue that I hold dear to my heart because a friend of mine, Rita Popaki, has been missing for several years now. And this particular poem that I wrote for this is, it says missing murdered women. And if you kind of read it going down, it says missing murdered women as well. So I just wanted to put that out there so people can maybe catch that later on. Missing murdered women. Investigations take eternities since victims are mistaken, since victims are misplaced. In space, never getting the light of day. Maybe someday, unless there's a miracle. Rest assured I'll keep working daily to keep your name in the spherical, evoke the spiritual. Rest assured I'll keep saying your name, even when it gets quiet, driving through the lane. When it gets quiet, over time, best believe, more and more people will know, everywhere, here to across the seas. Never forget, days can last in eternity.